Well, hello, minions. Have you come to find out what happened to Nomger and his team in the aftermath of his ill-fated assault on the Ranger Quipper? Well, you're lucky. It just so happens I'm in the mood to recount it. As is our fashion, the action is recounted using the Order of the Stick Monster for Every Season cutout minis. Today's players. Rick is Nomger, neutral evil human cleric of mask, 5th level. Shannon as Elwinda, chaotic neutral elven fighter magic user, level 4/4. Sean as Hagen, elven magic user, 4th level. Matt, introducing Warmerlig Grumblegrog, chaotic neutral dwarven fighter thief, level 1/1. Guest player Kingsley as Thalin Walden. Wait, didn't he just play a character called Thalin? My, the force of creativity with names is strong with this one. Anyway, Thalin Waldenfair, lawful neutral half-elf fighter magic user cleric of Helm, level 1/1. And guest player Joe as Bartholomew, aka Bart, true neutral human fighter, 3rd level. After the defeat at the hands of the Ranger Quipper, Nom, Elwinda, and Hagen have retreated back into the underground tunnels and have spent 3 days traveling back to the Broken Spire Keep. Nom has been casting healing spells on the group, as well as topping up their food and water with his divine magic. The group comes across another team of explorers in this series of underground tunnels, and thus Matt, Kingsley, and Joe introduce Warmerlig, Thalin, and Bart. In this particular episode of Contrived Character Entrances, the unlikely trio explains that they were hired by Lord Carmen of Milbourne to explore these very underground tunnels, an entrance to which was discovered northeast of Milbourne. Shortly after they delved into the tunnels, they were attacked by a very large contingent of orcs and forced to flee. Unfortunately, they got lost and were unable to find their way back, at least not in any direction that didn't involve facing orcs. Days later, they are running out of rations. Only Thalin's ability to create water has kept them from completely dehydrating. They are relieved to see others. Though the conversation is at first uneasy, as Nom and group are wary, in addition to Thalin being a priest of Helm, both groups agree that they can work together for mutual benefit. Nom is at first concerned that these people might be after him due to his wanted status in Heronshire, or worse, in league with Lyra, but it becomes clear that neither is true. Though, Thalin does note Ranchifus is a zombie, and as necromancy is illegal, he calls Nom out on this. But Nom replies that Ranchifus is a wanted murderer and he has zombified the body to take back as proof of death, a loophole that Thalin accepts, though he remains suspicious. As they travel together, the group is surprised by a gelatinous cube that has glided up silently behind them. The DM has Nom roll d6 and a 2 is scored, indicating 2 segments of surprise. The encounter distance due to surprise is rolled at 10 feet, striking distance. Bad news when the gelatinous cube gains surprise. The cube attacks the trailing figure, which happens to be the zombified Ranchifus, and draws him into the mass. After which the next target is the slow dwarf. The attack strikes Warmerlig, doing but a single point of damage and prompting a saving throw versus paralysis, but the dwarf succeeds. The group turns to meet this threat, but as the hawk lifts off from his perch on Nom's shoulder, the cube strikes at it, successfully pulling the bird into the cubical mass of goop. Spears, magic missiles, and a mighty blow from Bart with his magical battle axe dissolve the cube into a puddle of goo. And after saving the bird, and making sure Ranchifus is still recognizable and mobile, the team gleefully pulls out some intact coins, a valuable sapphire, and a gem they're not able to appraise right away. Continuing on, they encounter a pack of giant rats gnawing at the carcass of something. Nom wants to investigate, but the others are leery and prefer avoidance, so they move past. Finally, another gelatinous cube emerges, only this time the team gets the drop on it at range, and are able to bombard with missile fire, softening it up before Nom and Bart charge in to kill it with blows in melee. Some loose coin, 4 black pearls, and a clay flask with a glass stopper holding a magic potion that no one seems keen to identify by sipping. They form up and continue on. Unsure of the time of day as half a week underground has messed with their senses, Nom guesses that they are another day's travel back to their fortress stronghold. The group is tired and wants to rest, but Nom suggests pushing through and getting to the keep where they can rest in a fortified area. There is debate, but it is ultimately decided to try. The DM informs them of their penalties for fatigue, and they begin their forced march. 3 encounter checks are made as they push themselves to the limit of movement, but luck is with them, and they encounter nothing. Exhausted, and slogging up the winding passage to the keep, the team finds the secret door to the lower keep has been propped open, a spike preventing it from closing. This alarms the group. The dwarf spots evidence of passage, mud and scuffing on an otherwise clean floor. Unwilling to head back into the cave, they fortify the room by putting Ranchifus's bed against the door to the keep, and shutting the other secret door, spiking it to keep it closed. It will take 30 hours of rest to recover from their forced march, but they decide to take the risk. Zombie Ranchifus is ordered to guard, while the others collapse at various points in the room and sleep. 8 encounter checks are made by the DM to determine if the force that has arrived and taken over the keep now comes down to patrol or check on the room. A 2 in 6 chance for each roll, and no dice indicate 2 out of 8 rolls. The group is indeed fortunate, though the barricaded door would have helped in buying time to arm up and get ready should they have been alerted to trouble. Waking up from the long rest, the mages recover their spells. But Nom is unsure if he'll be able to, as he can only recover spells at dusk, being a cleric of mask, and having been underground for almost 6 days means he's lost track of the cycle. He prays to Mask, and as God is with him, Nom is able to recover his magic. Hagen is sent up to the ground floor to scout, being a sneaky elf and able to cast magic. As he creeps up the spiral stairs, the DM rolls surprise, and a 2 is scored, allowing Hagen to surprise a lone orc sentry, muttering to himself. Hagen hears conversation in orc down the hall as many others are feasting. He sleeps the sentry with a spell, and then drags the body down to the others for interrogation. Bart takes the orc's shield to use, recognizing the insignia as the same as the war party of orcs that attacked his group days prior when he entered the underground tunnels. Thalon casts Charm Person on the orc, and they wake him up. He is hostile to the full-blooded elves, but the charm works and he is cooperative and appreciative of the half-elf, complimenting his choice of god, as he claims Grumsh respects Helm's adherence to duty. The orc also sees that Nom is wearing Ranchifus's armor, and a high reaction roll indicates that he's impressed at the man who killed Ranchifus. He hates the elves, though, so Nom sends them away that they might get info from the orc. The orc reveals that a platoon of his tribe are here with Ranchifus's apprentice, sent to discover his fate. There were orcs assigned to him when the group attacked the keep, but Ranchifus had mentioned that the attack force might be too strong, so sent them off to inform the main tribe, rather than having them aid Ranchifus in the battle. Ranchifus's apprentice, Imran, and these new orcs were sent back to find out what happened and to help if needed. He tells Thalon that there are a dozen of his people, plus the human cleric of this new faith. Grumsh is pleased with the bloodlust inspired by this new faith, so the orcs ally with him. The orc also mentions that the tribe is feasting upon bear, as there was a sleeping bear in the stables. Nom becomes enraged at this turn of events and decides immediate action is needed. They send Hagen up to use sleep magic and put them down, while the rest wait for word to join. Hagen's stealth is unsuccessful, however, and Imran the cleric spots him, alerting his orc horde. Hagen falls back while the others rush forward into a shield wall formation. The orcs form up in the hall, delighting Hagen, whose web spell is ready to go. Imran the priest calls out to parley with Nom, offering him an opportunity. Nom keeps him talking, piqued when Imran talks of the dual memories, something Nom has been experiencing. Imran claims to have the answers and will share if Nom joins him. He is also grateful to Nom for removing Ranchifus as an obstacle to his own ambitions. Nom asks how they could possibly trust each other, and Imran says they will be joined if he drinks of the essence. He then passes a coffer of several potions up. Nom refuses to drink, and has Hagen immediately cast web while Elwinda drops a sleep spell on them. Initiative is rolled, and the team wins. Sleep and webs taking out all of the orcs. Imran, however, was outside of the webs, so turns and flees. Too bad they weren't this efficient against Quipper and Maxim, hey minions? Nom runs through the webs with his ring of free action, killing 2 orcs blocking his path. The others stab the orcs to death with spears. Warmerlig and Elwinda rush up the stairs to the spire overlooking the courtyard and are able to take shots at the fleeing Imran from their vantage. But while the dwarf clips him with a heavy crossbow bolt, it doesn't kill him, and Imran flees into the wilds with Nom in hot pursuit. The DM calculates Nom's chances of catching Imran using the pursuit rules from the 1st edition Dungeon Master's Guide, and rules that 3 successful evasion checks will mean Imran escapes. Imran's head start proves enough, and 3 consecutive evasion successes means that Nom loses his quarry. He returns to the keep, reasoning that Imran is likely going to die, as he stays away from any settlements without any supplies other than what he might have had on hand, and the winter is very harsh. A day later, Nom's wolf, which Hagen had let loose before leaving to join the group underground, returns and rejoins the team. The session ends there. Well, minions, a fairly paint-by-numbers outing, though with some wrinkles to shake things up. The team was already familiar with traveling through these caverns, but Nom deciding to force march meant calling up the fatigue rules from the DMG. Excess fatigue being similar to level drain, where characters lose effective levels of ability until they rest, is quite punitive. But luckily for them, the dice were with them and they didn't have to face any encounters. The orcs that had taken over the keep were the result of a roll the DM had made prior to them leaving. This was going to happen, whether or not the team had opted to leave. Since they were out, that meant the orcs had an easy time of reclaiming the keep. Unfortunately, it cost Nom his bear, as of course the orcs would help themselves to a fine meal of fresh meat. Dealing with the orcs was a snap, and Imran was arguably no slouch. Not quite the foe Ranchifus was, but he could have caused some trouble. Interesting how a dozen orcs and a 4th level cleric were dominated by the team, but a single ranger and werebear with 4 0-level crossbowmen proved to be a nightmare against a fighting force of 18. The dice gods certainly are fickle, aren't they, minions? But if you let the dice land where they will, the story that results is almost always never dull, even when comparatively little happens. So Imran escaped, and the DM will have to determine whether or not he is able to survive the elements, get back to his superiors to report about Nom Gare and team. With the freshly butchered orcs, Nom has a selection of corpses for zombification, which made him quite happy, almost worth losing his pet bear. The team is still unable to leave Heronshire, and it's quite likely that the ranger and his allies will arrive sooner or later. As well, Imran gave a tiny tidbit of info, a minor clue as to the overarching Night Below story, so things have certainly been eventful narratively for Nom Gare and the surviving members of his team. Tune in next session, minions, as Nom Gare and his team make one last-ditch effort to escape from Heronshire and report back to his church that he has defeated the apostate Ranchifus and wash his hands of the mission once and for all. Until then, minions, be evil to one another.